Donald Trump has announced that he'll be deploying National Guard and federal law enforcement into Kenosha, Wisconsin, after what may be the worst night of civil unrest we have seen yet. For those that haven't heard the news, a young man who was armed and defending private property was attacked. He fired upon 3 people. 2 of them are dead. 1 of them is injured. But it's not just this one story. There's another story about a group of Black Lives Matter activists who were traveling from Milwaukee to Washington, D.C., engaging in a firefight with locals in rural Pennsylvania. One individual was hit with birdshot, I believe, in the face. Over the past several months, we have seen an escalation of the violence in these riots, and Donald Trump has repeatedly offered federal assistance and asked these governors to deploy National Guard, but they kept saying no. In one instance, the mayor of Chicago said, "I don't need leadership lessons from Donald Trump." And then only a few weeks later, mass rioting and looting struck the city. The unrest will not stop until these Democratic politicians step up and call out the violence and send in police to do their jobs. But in every single one of these jurisdictions, they have not done that. In Portland, the DA has repeatedly said he will not be prosecuting many of these individuals. Well, it's about time something gets done. And Donald Trump is now doing it. And my respect to the governor of Wisconsin for accepting this assistance. They like to call Donald Trump a fascist. They lied, claiming he was sending out federal police officers to all of these different jurisdictions. He never did. Maybe if he did, this would not have happened. But now they are finally starting to turn around. The pundit class and these Democrats are finally accepting the people have had enough. Unfortunately, I don't believe they're turning a new leaf because they realized that the violence was hurting innocent people. Don Lemon put it best when he said, "It's starting to show up in the polls." And only because of that are the Democrats now stepping up and saying, we must end the violence. If only they listened sooner. We've got a lot of information to go through. I want to show you the main story, Donald Trump's announcement, and what's going on with this story out of rural Pennsylvania with these Black Lives Matter individuals who did get shot. Because the new report is they exchanged gunfire. The violence is getting worse. It must be stopped. So I'm glad Democrats are speaking up. Unfortunately, I don't think they're sincere. Let's get started. But before we do, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There's many ways you can give. I got a P.O. box if you'd like to send things. But the best thing you can do, subscribe to my channel or share this video. I don't have a big marketing budget like these big big media companies, not tech companies, media companies. So if you want to help me out, sharing the video just spreads the message. And also don't forget to hit the like button, the notification bell, and let's get to the news. Donald Trump tweeted, "We will not stand for looting, arson, violence, and lawlessness on American streets. My team just got off the phone with Governor Evers, who agreed to accept federal assistance. Portland should do the same. Today, I will be sending federal law enforcement and the National Guard to Kenosha, Wisconsin to restore law and order. Thank you, President Trump. And thank you, Governor Evers." Many of these other governors just don't want to face the music and say we need help. Well, I'm grateful that Wisconsin has accepted this. And I'm glad that Trump is still offering it and taking this action. But it needs to be said. The police asked for assistance early on, and the governor said no. I've actually got 2 separate letters where they've asked for the National Guard. And he waited, and things got bad. But listen, I'm not gonna drag someone for doing the right thing, but I will highlight this could have been avoided. Now, I do want to mention that there are some responses to Donald Trump, and I want to make sure we can be fair and clarify some of this. Mrs. Krasenstein responded to Trump saying, he already called in the National Guard earlier this week. Stop trying to take credit for everything. It's disgusting how Trump is trying to politicize anti-violence, as if Democrats are pro-violence. That's just stupid. This is what I can't stand, and I am sick of. This is a lie. It's misframing. It's false framing. I have a letter here. This is from the county of Kenosha from today requesting. They say, "We are formally asking for 1,500 National Guard members with police powers to be sent to Kenosha County immediately. Our county is in a state of emergency, and we need additional law enforcement to help preserve and save Kenosha County." The previous day, a letter, August 25th, before these people lost their lives, they requested 2,000 National Guard, saying, "We are respectively requesting that you contact President Trump and solicit at least an additional 2,000 National Guardsmen to supplement our Kenosha law enforcement agencies." He didn't. In fact, according to Mark Meadows, He says the Wisconsin governor rejected offers of federal help to quell Kenosha rioting. White House Chief of Staff says unrest out of control and it can't be allowed to continue. So when they respond to Trump saying he already did this, stop trying to take credit, that's how they lie. That's the game the media plays. Already the Washington Post is being criticized for failing to properly inform people what really happened. A young man was defending private property. It appears as though he was attacked and fired in self-defense, hitting a man in the head. It's tragic. He then fled, tripped. A man tried to disarm him and took a bullet to the chest. Another man who was armed with what appears to be a Glock approached him, tried grabbing the gun, and took a rifle round to his right bicep. And it is horrifying footage, to say the least. But they did not have the appropriate number of National Guardsmen. And the governor rejected Trump's offer, the federal government's offer of assistance early on. If he just said, yes, this would not have happened. But I'm grateful that he's accepting it now, and I hope tonight things calm down. But we have an update as well on the young man who fired on these individuals from CBS Chicago. Kenosha shooting. 17-year-old Kyle Rittenhouse arrested in connection with shooting that left 2 dead, 1 wounded. CBS reports a 17-year-old boy is in police custody in north suburban Lake County, charged as a fugitive in connection with a shooting in Kenosha, Wisconsin, that left 2 people dead and another wounded. The boy was arrested Thursday in Antioch on a warrant from Kenosha, charged with being a fugitive from justice, and is being held in the Lake County Juvenile Detention Center near Vernon Hills. Police have not named the suspect, but according to Lake County court records, the suspect is 17-year-old Kyle Rittenhouse. According to the Associated Press, Antioch Police Commander Norman Johnson said the suspect was arrested on suspicion of first-degree intentional homicide. An extradition hearing has been scheduled for Friday. Now, in footage we see of this man running, he is attacked, and he does fire in self-defense. But the video from earlier on, the initial shooting, which left 1 person dead, he was shot in the head. We don't know exactly what happened. But there is analysis popping up from various journalists which suggests he wasn't the first person to fire. It would appear that many people were vandalizing and looting this car dealership. And when he tried to stop them, they attacked him and he defended himself, resulting in 1 person dying. You hear him say, it sounds like he's saying in the audio that he says that he's killed somebody. He then fled, and that's when he was chased, fell, and fired in self-defense. He's now being held on suspicion of first-degree intentional homicide. He may actually be released after all of after the investigation is done. They say the incident was captured in a series of videos on social media, which show the gunman opening fire on a crowded street and then walking past police responding to the scene without being taken into custody. Some people living in Kenosha are leaving the city after escalating violence, riots, and looting. And police are still searching for the killer who opened fire Tuesday night on the streets in Kenosha. In the wake of the shooting, there is growing concern about what could happen again later today. There are several videos of the incident on social media, some of them very graphic. The man with the rifle can be heard saying, quote, "I just killed somebody," as he runs away from the scene, while others in the video tend to a person on the ground who appears to have been shot in the head. So I think that's the gist of they're just going to rehash what we already know. So let's move on. There's one very important thing I want to make sure we highlight. Antioch is within only a couple miles of the border of Wisconsin. What we're seeing here on the left is Antioch. You can see it's only about a half an hour drive to Kenosha, which is, it's all relatively close. Kenosha being just south of Racine and I believe just south of Milwaukee as well. It's likely that he wasn't fleeing from justice, but that he just went home. Now, he should have immediately turned himself in, so perhaps that does qualify him as a fugitive from justice. I can only say I hope that the National Guard and the law enforcement being deployed to assist can stabilize this, end the violence once and for all. And I believe it is the duty of these governors in Oregon and in any other state where we're seeing this. They accept Trump's offer for help. Be responsible. We're seeing a change in the narrative, however. CNN's Don Lemon warns of Democratic blind spot on riots. It's showing up in the polling. Perhaps that's why people are now finally starting to come around. Some saying, like David Axelrod, for instance, the shooting by police of Jacob Blake was egregious and adds to a righteous sense of moral outrage about these recurrent horrors. But make no mistake, arson and rioting play right into real Donald Trump's hands and the primal fear message we heard so frequently last night. Notice he's not saying the violence must be stopped. He's saying it's helping Donald Trump. Notice Jamal Bowman saying, we need Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to condemn the militias that killed these people, not the extremists. The governor has accepted law enforcement to end the violence, and yet they still blame Trump. Their number one concern is Donald Trump. The polls. That's what Don Lemon said. It's showing up in the polling. That's why they're finally reacting. So when I tell my friends, you've got me, I'm voting Trump, and I'm probably just going to go Republican across the board. I'm done. I'm done playing games. I don't care. The riots were bad enough. They mocked Trump. They belittled him when he said, I will send in federal help if you just ask for it. They said no. I remember when Lori Lightfoot said she didn't need lessons from Trump. And then a couple weeks later, looting and rioting sweeps across Chicago. They raised the bridges. You know what that does? It forces the extremists into the neighborhoods. Many aldermen had been complaining about this. And that made me angry. And I said, well, you know what? We got to vote for Trump because he's the only one saying he'll deal with this. Now, what are we hearing from the pundit class? The only reason they're angry is because it's hurting their polling. 2 people just died last night. Is 32 people not enough for you? So I am done with all of them. I think it's about time Trump and the Republicans got a chance to get a hold of the situation. And if that means Trump invokes the Insurrection Act, so be it. But for now, he's refrained from doing so. And they scream fascist over and over again. But he's not the fascist. And he waited until the governor requested it. Some people are saying, well, what will Trump do to change it? He's not doing now. It's not so much about what he'll change. It's about not letting Joe Biden get in the office and then do nothing. It's about potentially, if this gets worse, Trump being the person who will invoke the Insurrection Act. It's not just about what happened last night in Kenosha. These riots have been escalating. From the Altoona Mirror, we have a major update. Bedford, 1 shot as group residents clash. After a shooting late Monday night in Shellsburg that injured a community activist, tensions between the group and Bedford County residents bubbled over again late Tuesday night as state police responded to gunfire at a motel where the activist group was staying. State police spokesman Trooper Joseph Dunsmore confirmed that troopers were investigating a second incident involving the group of about 30 people making a trek from Milwaukee to Washington, D.C. on foot. Quote, We are handling it as 2 separate incidents, Dunsmore said of the gunfire in the parking lot of the motel Tuesday night. Information about 2 pickup trucks and a motorcycle that could be involved was heard in scanner chatter Tuesday night, and Dunsmore confirmed those vehicles were thought to be involved. No one was injured in that incident, unlike the incident on Route 30 in Shellsburg and Waniata Township, Bedford County. Late Monday night, where 1 person was taken to a hospital after getting shot in the face with birdshot. Questions remain after a late-night confrontation between property owners. State police and Bedford County District Attorney Leslie Childers Potts said Tuesday afternoon investigators were working to find out what happened. All we know is there was an exchange of gunfire between 2 parties involved, Bedford State Police Captain Jamie Clark told reporters Tuesday afternoon. State police indicated that Bedford Station was contacted by property owners about 11:18 p.m. Monday about a group of people in the parking lot of a private business. It was the group of activists from Milwaukee, which was walking to Washington, D.C. about 11:35 p.m. Before state police arrived, the property owners confronted the group. State police said the situation escalated and gunshots were exchanged between the property owners and the group, with 1 activist getting hit with birdshot. I want to make sure this is clear. On Monday night, a group of Black Lives Matter activists who were traveling from Milwaukee to D.C. I'm not going to say they were walking because apparently they had cars. They were exchanging gunfire with property owners. And this story specifically says, after a shooting late Monday night in Shellsburg that injured a community activist, tensions between the group and Bedford County residents bubbled over again Tuesday night. State police responded to gunfire where the activist group was staying. It was not just Monday. It happened again Tuesday. This group of individuals that are traveling, I don't know what they're doing. But if on Monday night they were exchanging gunfire and Tuesday night more gunfire, it is the Black Lives Matter group. Why are they armed as they're traveling? Is that even legal? Some people have questioned whether or not they have the legal right to be carrying arms across state lines in the way they're doing it. Perhaps there's some reciprocity, but I don't think Illinois has that. I'm fairly certain Illinois does not, unless they change their laws. So what does this mean? These individuals traveling from Milwaukee to D.C. are illegally transporting guns across state lines. Now, don't get me wrong. I am recently now all about the Second Amendment. The point is, it seems like it's these individuals that are bringing the trouble along with them. 2 nights in a row. And what we saw in Kenosha, we can't stand for this, man. We need to get things stabilized. And all we're hearing from the Democrats for the past 3 months has been Antifa is a myth. The violence is a myth. It's not really happening. They're peaceful protesters. Peaceful protesters, man. What did Kate Brown say on July 30th? Governor of Oregon said, I think we've had enough political grandstanding from D.C. The president's plan to dominate the streets of American cities has failed, and today federal troops are preparing to leave downtown Portland. We will protect free speech and the right to protest peacefully. The massive and non-violent protests led by Black Lives Matter activists have inspired the nation. Let's get to work and make this vision a reality. And what did she say yesterday? Let me be clear. It's time for the violence and vandalism to end, so Portland can focus on the important work to be done to achieve real change for racial justice. Those who have committed acts of violence will be held accountable. We must work together to de-escalate the potential for confrontation by continuing to foster community conversations and utilizing trained law enforcement officers to keep the peace, protect speech, not soldiers. Okay. A month ago, she was saying they're peaceful protests. A month later, she's saying we got to stop the violence. You know what I'm hearing? The Republicans had principles. When this first started, they said we must end the violence and protect the business owners. And the Democrats pretended like it wasn't happening. But then Don Lemon made an observation. It's showing up in the polling. All of a sudden now, the tunes are a-changing. While Oregon Governor Kate Brown might be saying we must end the violence, and I can respect that, the governor is now agreeing with Trump to send in federal law enforcement. I can agree with that. We're seeing many of these pundits straight up say it's just because it's helping Trump. That's the only reason. The only reason. It's helping Trump. That's what Don Lemon said. And Jamal Bowman saying no. No. Condemn the armed individuals defending people's livelihood, their businesses. Condemn them. Defend the extremists. Jamal Bowman wants Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to defend the extremists who have been coming out for months, burning down buildings, just absolutely destroying everything. I think it's fascinating that the one thing that really lights up Don Lemon and many of these people is that, Trump might win now. You're right. Shock. 1 point separates Biden, 46%, Trump, 45%. The race is a dead heat. From the Washington Examiner. Former Vice President Joe Biden's lead over President Trump in the 2020 presidential race, once as high as 15 points in some polls, has been cut to just 1 point in the latest Rasmussen Report survey shared with Secrets. The pollster, one of those who most closely called the 2016 popular vote, said that Biden is edging Trump 46 to 45, well within the margin of error. That is a dramatic change from its last status report on the race, when Biden led Trump 48% to 44% over a week ago. The survey comes on the heels of the Democratic National Convention that gave Biden no traditional bump in the polls, according to Reuters' Ipsos survey released today. It also comes on the same day that the latest Zogby poll put Trump's approval rating at its highest ever, 52%. The Republican National Convention is in its third day, and Trump is expected to speak tomorrow. If the polls continue on their path, he should receive a post-convention bump. I was reluctant to support Trump. I said a couple years ago I'd never support Trump. I said earlier this year I wouldn't buy guns. The riots happened. I bought several. I said, I'll probably vote for Trump. The Democrats then came out complaining that the rioting was hurting Trump's polls. And now I am, you know what? I'm voting for Trump. I'm voting R across the board. Get rid of these people. When the riots erupted, they had no principles. They defended no one. The business owners in Seattle are suing. Multiple people died from Seattle's Chaz. And only when they went to the mayor's house in Seattle did she do anything. They've been going to people's homes. They've been burning down buildings, destroying people's lives. And only now, when they realize they're getting hurt in the polls, do they do anything about it. You know what I'll take? I'll take the guy who's been saying over and over again, we must end the lawlessness. And that's why the polls reflect this. And I think there's going to be a Trump landslide. Right now, crews are setting up an extra perimeter fencing around the White House. From the Hill this morning. You know why? On September 17th, in just about 2 or 3 weeks, there is a group of activists planning what they call the White House siege, 50 days of unrest around the White House. I'm not having it. I have no patience for this anymore. They're going to do it. Many people are saying that from November 3rd election night into January, or however long it takes, there's going to be mass unrest across this country. I'm not having it. I want to get life back to normal. I think most people do. But I wonder how many of you actually saw these videos where these people are calling into C-SPAN. It's remarkable. There was a tweet from a conservative individual saying that he spoke with a lifelong liberal friend of his, Democrat, and upon hearing the speech from the RNC last night, I believe it was Melania, they decided to vote Republican. One of these lefty bubble journalists responded saying, did it happen in a hipster cafe? It's a joke. Hipster cafe is a reference. They're essentially arguing it's a made up point. No one actually said that. That somebody went to a cafe and overheard the hipster saying they'd vote for Trump. She was basically saying, yeah, right, that happened, which I think it did. There's a C-SPAN caller. A woman calls in and she said that she heard Melania speak and she was inspired and would now be voting Republican. There's another call where a woman said that she lives in Minneapolis and the DNC did not give her hope, did not address the unrest, the chaos and everything that was happening. And when she watched the RNC, she had hope that people might actually come in and help. And it's not just them. I can't imagine after all of this, after especially what happened in Kenosha, that people are committed to voting for the Democrats. When you have the governors finally relenting, when you have the pundits saying, the polls are bad, when Donald Trump is now within 1 point of Joe Biden nationally, and even CNN has Trump within 1 point in 15 battleground states, I see a landslide coming on. I see a Donald Trump landslide. I have had enough with the scandals, with impeachment, with every single story, every single time being anti-Donald Trump. I can't. They called him a fascist because he deployed federal law enforcement in Portland. He was defending the courthouse. Now they're complaining he didn't actually send in the National Guard. They already were doing it anyway. He's not doing anything. No matter what Trump does, they say it's bad. But we need stability back in this country. We need all of these Democrats who allowed this to happen to be held accountable. And I mean it. Look, Bill de Blasio, using taxpayer dollars to paint Black Lives Matter. We are seeing these people get overt support from the Democratic Party. We are seeing them get overt support from major corporations. And all of these individuals need to be held accountable for supporting a racist and extremist ideology. I'll tell you what else, man. I don't know if you've seen some of the responses from people, these high-profile leftists, after watching the RNC, after watching Melania Trump speak. Bette Midler mocking her for having an accent. Other people mocking the minority speakers, the minorities, minority individuals who were speaking at the RNC. And I think what was most offensive to me was after we had Tim Scott and Nikki Haley speaking at the RNC, Tim Scott being a black man, Nikki Haley being an Indian woman. They started berating and insulting the Republicans for tokenizing individuals. And that got me thinking. They say that you must allow marginalized voices space. So when the Republican Party actually gave space to Senator Tim Scott and, Nikki Haley, they made fun of them. They mocked them. They insulted them. And that shows me they're an unserious group of individuals. They don't care about protecting us. They don't care about restoring our businesses. They just hate. They just hate. That's it. So when they say, here's what we believe in, I don't trust them at all. When they say that the riots are peaceful marches, the New York Times literally referred to this as peaceful march. When they reject federal assistance, and then finally, when 2 people die, they come out and say, okay, we were wrong. I don't believe it. I don't believe they care. And I believe if they're given power and they stay in power, it will get worse. I think we need Republicans to come in. We need Section 230 reform. We need criminal justice reform. We need term limits, potentially term limits. I lean in favor of it. I'm done with the Democratic Party, man. I don't think there's anything they could do at this point to convince me that they've ever actually cared. I don't think the Republican Party necessarily either, but I'll tell you what, at least at this point, I'm willing to defer to them. And then hopefully we get rid of the crony establishment Republicans and Democrats. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 6 p.m. over at youtube.com/TimCastNews. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all next time.